This is going to be the second part of my three-part series reviewing the Floto Piazza Messenger Bag. So in my previous video, I talked a lot about the outside of the bag and the leather being used, and we're going to dive into the inside of the bag, the utility, how easy it is to access things, as well as the overall design on the inside of the bag for day-to-day use in an office. If you haven't had a chance to look at my previous video, I suggest you go back and do so. If you're only interested on the carrying capacity inside the bag, please continue to watch the second video. So, as I talked about in my first video, I really do like the fact that Floto has a buckle that hides the fact that it has kind of these quick release clips in place, allowing you to both secure your bag quickly, but also to access it extremely fast too, without making it look too cheap or chintzy. So what you have here along the front inside of the bag is a second solid piece of leather here. So you have one along the front and one along the back here with another zipper pull holding it in place. This zipper is the exact same size as the back zipper, so you will also be able to fit whole sheets of paper into this pocket as well. I will say this front inside pocket is not a place that I would put papers that you don't want to get bent or don't want to stay crisp, just because this is a top that you'll be moving around a lot, but it does give you an access site. And as you can see, the inside here is lined with the pure dyed through vegetable tan calfskin leather, which is absolutely beautiful. And the feel along the inside of that raw leather feel is really nice. It feels really nice against your skin. It does cause some issues putting papers in of it getting caught a little bit. This is a very common occurrence with a lot of leather bags, and something you live with. You either line the inside with vinyl and lose the fact that you can see this raw leather, or you keep it raw and just deal with the fact that things get caught along the inside. This is also an extremely large pocket, which causes surprisingly issues because you lose things inside this pocket. As you take papers out, and sometimes when you're clearing things out, you'll reach into the corners and you'll notice, just random little pieces like caps of pens and other things that fallen in there, and you just never realized it. Further along the inside of the front, you get to the second panel here. This panel corresponds to the back panel in which the handle is tied or sewn onto and riveted onto. So along here on the inside, you have a very beautiful Floto logo with a handmade in Italy right underneath it in cursive. It is out of the way enough and subtle enough that it doesn't really jump out at your face. It's not something that, is going to ruin the look of the bag by them placing their logo on it, but at the same time also allows you to kind of see that they take ownership of it. What this tells me is that this is clearly not a bag that is manufactured for multiple sellers and then just kind of resold with each individual company's branding on it. I feel like, given the depth of this logo and how professionally placed it is, that this is something that they do in their factory as they're producing the bag. So what you'll notice is this bag along the inside in the most used area, so in the gussets, is actually lined with leather, but this is more raw, undyed leather. I believe this is also calfskin leather as well. You can kind of feel this really raw, light leather allows you to kind of really access it. So this panel here and this panel, which corresponds to actually the inside panel of this back pocket, is what appear to be relatively minimally dyed to slightly raw leather, which I really like. I think it adds a really beautiful look to it. As is along the outside, in which there are no raw edges of leather that can be seen. All of it is covered and sewn up. Along the top here, you have the exact same thing happening. So you don't get any raw edges of this leather, which, depending on how much you love leather, can kind of differentiate. You see the bottom panel here, which is still the vegetable tan leather, and you have two pockets here. They call these cell phone pockets. I would say actually these would probably be more useful for chargers of any laptops or iPads or cell phones that you place in here, rather than actually putting your phones in here. inside the front gusset, you just get a large pocket to place things. What you'll notice if you look inside is that the bottom gussets here are made of 2 pieces of leather that are sewn together. So you can see kind of the stitching right here and the 2 pieces of leather sewn together. Which, if you watch my other videos, especially talking about the Marlando bag, I mentioned that yes, it is not ideal to have 2 separate pieces of leather for on the bottom. In terms of aesthetics, it doesn't really matter a lot because you can't really see it. In terms of functional use, these bags can never really hold enough weight to make that a failure point. So I'm very comfortable with these bags having not a full strap of leather along the bottom and not worrying about its ability to fail. Along the front of this bag here, you have 2 nice little pen holders, and then you have 2 big pockets for you to store things. So this is the exact design and along the front of here that has made one of Saddleback's front pocket briefcases extremely popular. Instead of placing the front pockets inside one of the gussets, in which you, if you watch my other video, I use the term negative space, you lose that negative space, you put it along the front of the bag. Now, one very interesting thing about this is the interior here is lined with a soft suede leather. It is actually absolutely beautiful and feels great under your hand. You can see kind of me moving around the suede a little bit. You can also, if you look close enough at the suede, see the pores still there. So that is just absolutely beautiful. I love it. And it has along the both sides here. You actually see some of the scars present inside the suede leather as well. It's only the front pocket here that's lined with that. The rest of the pocket is lined either with the dark pigskin leather or this raw leather. I will say it appears that there is one panel here that is not vegetable tanned brown leather all the way through, and that's this front panel along the back here. It's lined, and then if you actually look inside here along this pocket, you can see an undyed area here. So this front panel doesn't have, it appears, the same type of leather. I think it's a little bit different. These pockets are massive. I can fit my whole hand into it. You can carry a lot of things in these pockets, a lot of knickknacks, and then you can secure the pocket closed and not have to worry about it falling apart or getting lost anywhere. One of the beautiful things I love specifically about their vegetable tanning process is depending on how you vegetable tan your leathers, sometimes you can tan it dark enough to a degree enough that it hides a lot of the blemishes in the leather. And I really love those blemishes. And if you look closely enough, you will see that there are some beautiful stretch marks along these inside pocket here. And I absolutely love that. This vegetable tanning is light enough that you can still enjoy, you know, the life of the animal before it gave its skin for this leather, and be able to kind of see the uniqueness in each bag and, you know, pieces of a story basically of that animal. I absolutely love that. I think that adds a lot of character to the bag. I will say that the only areas I really notice this are more along these inside pockets here, that actually along the front panel. I think they spent a long time trying to find a piece of very pristine pure leather, but you can still see that there are kind of hidden underneath the kind of subtle differences in the color of the leather, some stretch marks, maybe a scar here running through. It really doesn't affect your leather in any way. I think if you talk to people who are true leather aficionados, they will say that leather that is stretched or has scars in it by default is going to be slightly weaker. I will say that that is a discussion of whether or not a bag is going to last 100 versus 200 years. I don't really think it's a discussion that warrants, you know, any more information than that, because you're talking much, much further down the line. You're talking a weakness and failure, you know, likely, you know, decades and decades down the line, in which you likely would not be using this bag anymore. Otherwise, the interior of this bag is absolutely gorgeous, extremely functional. I love the fact that they added a separate zipper when they didn't necessarily have to. I mean, them putting the second zipper along the inside pocket required them to take a second panel of leather and sew it on here rather than just leaving one piece raw along the back side. So that was definitely not a cheap move by them, but does, you know, significantly increase the storage space in this bag. The other thing I really love is just the color of the leather along the inside. This kind of off-white color is absolutely beautiful and contrasts so well with this brown leather that they have. The pockets along the front are just an incredibly good idea, along with these pencil holders, which just gives you quick and easy access to pens when you need it, and then allows you to throw everything else into the front pockets. So this is the second part of my review of the Floto Piazza Messenger Bag. Stay tuned for the third part of the review, in which I just kind of do my final wrap up and conclusion.